Good afternoon. Thank you. What a wonderful time in the state of West Virginia that we have today. More investments in West Virginia than in the past 4 years. Just in 1 year alone, West Virginia has seen over $7 billion of investments from the private industry. And it goes to show you working together and having the right mindset of a business mindset is what can be accomplished here in the state. I'm very thankful that our legislatures are of this mindset of looking and how we can develop and move West Virginia in a forward direction. And today's event that we're having here today is one other area that is an untapped part of the state of West Virginia that we need to leverage and move forward, and that is within the aviation industry. And I'm very, very thankful that we have a panel here today to be able to talk about that. So our moderator today is retired Air Force Colonel Sean Frisbee. He is a veteran of the national defense industry, an executive of more than 30 years of experience leading the Air Force organization, defense startups, and other academic nonprofits. Sean leverages his experience to benefit the state of West Virginia. Frisbee spearheads efforts focused on interdisciplinary collaboration and economic recovery in Appalachia. Vertex Partners is named the convenience between the two previous unconnecting paths, matching companies' vision of a federal business strategy, and identifies and matches technologies, small businesses, non-traditional defense contractors with partners, investors, suppliers, and the Department of Defense to solve national security. Colonel Frisbee dedicates himself to bettering his state and the country, possessing both the experience and technical know-how to lead and on a mission to transform West Virginia into a powerhouse and of the national defense industry here in this country. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Colonel Sean Frisbee.
Thank you, Senator Jeffries, and while the panel comes out and has a seat, I'd just like to say welcome, Mr. Speaker, all of our delegates, all of our senators, and any guests that we have here today. And we're pretty excited. We've got a diverse group of aerospace experts here. We're looking forward to having a robust discussion on West Virginia and various aspects of aerospace. It's an exciting industry. It is booming, and we want to make sure that West Virginia stays on the leading edge of this industry. You know, a lot of people don't realize it, but aerospace, I'm going to have a seat here, so I'm not walking around, but a lot of people don't realize it, but aerospace literally touches everybody. And a lot of the technologies that we use every day come from the aerospace industry. GPS, for example. How could we possibly live without Google Maps and Waze and so on and so forth? But also the cameras that you have on your phones, that technology to make that camera as good as it is and as small as it is comes from aerospace. How many of you have memory foam mattresses? That technology was developed by NASA as a safety measure as well as a comfort measure for our astronauts. Earbuds and headphones, even baby food can look at its origin back to developing food for our astronauts. And soon, we just recently saw a technology that everybody here is going to love. You're soon going to have a leaf blower that is absolutely silent. And it is incredible to see a leaf blower. You are holding a leaf blower and there is literally no noise coming out of it. And that technology is being developed for drones in order to reduce the acoustics of these drones flying around. So West Virginia already has a robust industry here that is looking at about 1.35 billion a year that contributes to 486 million of state GDP, more than 24 million in state and local taxes. But what we see globally is just an incredible growth of this industry, from the commercial systems and defense, the emerging space economy that we'll talk a bit about today, and sustainability initiatives, battery development, as well as alternative fuels to reduce carbon emissions, which could be an important role here in West Virginia. And then a whole new industry called advanced air mobility that I'm really excited for us to talk about. So as you go into your session this year, various aspects of what you're going to be discussing, what you're going to be debating, relate to aerospace. And we want to make sure that whether you're talking about regulatory frameworks or infrastructure development, economic initiatives, public-private partnerships, on, as it relates to aerospace, that you're educated, that you've got places you can go to gather more information, and so hopefully today will be a start on that. So let me begin by having each one of the panelists spend about 30 seconds, give us a little bit of your background, where you come from, and then from your perspective, how you or your company or the work that you do contributes to this aerospace economy in West Virginia. Bill, let's start with you.
30 seconds.
Okay, all right, a minute.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Bill No. I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, started flying airplanes when I was 17 years old, went to Marshall University, and left there to embark on an incredibly exciting career in aviation, and have found it bringing me back to the great state of West Virginia. Everybody always likes to come back to their alma mater, so I love coming back to West Virginia anytime I can and find myself now more regularly here. And we're in a unique position right now as an industry globally, nationwide, but most certainly in a great position in the state of West Virginia to be able to take advantage of a platform that would probably, in all estimations, trump just about any industry out there today in one way, shape, or form in creating opportunity and an ecosystem that would feed it. And this platform is aviation. It's not just flying airplanes. It's not just working on airplanes. It's everything that aviation touches, like the Colonel was saying. This also feeds well beyond that, though. The more aviation grows, the more infrastructure, the more economic development. We got really big companies looking at us right now in this state of West Virginia, and some of them are already here and are talking about even doing more stuff. But we're going to need more hotels, more restaurants, more rental car agencies, more FedEx, more UPS. It just continues to snowball around this industry that's wide open for opportunity right now, called aviation. And I think it would be hard to imagine us not taking advantage of this to its maximum capacity. It's about as close to a no-risk investment as I've ever seen. And it just happens to be in my particular field of interest in aviation. So thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. My name is Tracy Miller, and my background is in education, and I started working for the State Department of Commerce in 1996, where I met Scott Rotruck, and worked under 4 governors, and we were trying to think when we started targeting aerospace as a sector in West Virginia. And it had to have been sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. And we've had a Pratt Whitney plant here for over 50 years, a Lockheed Martin plant here for over 60 years. We have airports all over the state. One of the things that we didn't really have, even though this was a target industry of the state, was a lot of education and training. And I think one of the things that we've done, besides everything these 2 gentlemen have talked about, are major investments from K-12 to higher ed to really set the stage to not only take whatever your definition of aviation and aerospace and space is, but I think one of the things that this panel is doing is expanding the definition to add advanced air mobility and all of that. And so to make sure that as we all leave today and think about what this does for us as grown-ups, all 55 counties, we have opportunities to grow aerospace, but we really have opportunities to train our youth, to look at kids now and say, whether you want to fly it, design it, work on it, whatever you want to do in this industry, you don't ever have to leave West Virginia. And I think that as long as we continue to make investments in that, we are going to be able to grow aerospace so that every single person in every single county and every district of this state can say that if I want to own a piece of aerospace, there is more than enough opportunities out there. And I know in the little corner of the world that I work in, which is mostly maintenance, repair, and overhaul, 100% job placement. If you're a pilot, 100% job placement. If you're going to work on an airplane, 100% job placement. And then the opportunities outside of that are infinite. So I think together we can add an industry sector to West Virginia or continue investing in it that we're never going to regret. So thank you very much.
First, my name is Steve Luxian, known as Lux. I'm a 34-year veteran of the Air Force, is where I came from. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today, the invitation to be here, and the opportunities also to work with Marshall and some of what I'm going to discuss today. Currently, I'm the executive director of Assure, which is an alliance of now 29 research universities and about 150 government and industry partners in the aerospace area, primarily focused on autonomy and unmanned aircraft systems. We serve as the FAA Center of Excellence for all that academic research and things to help them make decisions on policy, rules, regulations, and guidance going forward. We also support NASA in applied technology research, and then also another program in FEMA with FEMA and NIST, which we call Assured Safe, which will be another opportunity to talk today, which is a federated program to provide education, training, testing, certification, and credentialing of first responder use of UAS so that it meets all the needs of privacy, but takes this new emerging technology that can provide so much benefit into first responders type actions. So I look forward to chatting today.
Hello, my name is Steve Wright. I'm the president of Precision Cast Parts Corporation, TIMET. TIMET is currently building a melt shop, titanium melt shop up in Ravenswood, West Virginia with our partners, Berkshire Hathaway Energy Renewables. I was on this stage last September with Alicia Knapp, my peer that runs the BHER group, and myself. And I'm happy to tell you that we're well under construction there outside of Ravenswood. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a lifelong resident of West Virginia. I went to Western University with a degree in engineering, and then did a little bit of time working with some design and consulting engineering. But 27 years this May, I'll have been with our company, TIMET, which is part of Precision Cast Parts. And the connection there, just to close the loop, Precision Cast Parts is wholly owned by Berkshire Hathaway. So that's why BHER is a strategic partner of ours. So when I think about the opportunity to speak to you today, I think about, first of all, you supporting us last year with a grant to come here and develop a titanium manufacturing site here in the state. But also, with my teammates here today, recognize that it's just the start of what could really be something that can grow and expand very rapidly. I'm privileged to have facilities, our company has facilities on 4 different continents, 13 countries, over 100 manufacturing facilities. Most of those facilities have an average employment of 150 or so employees. with sites like up in Toronto, Ohio, just across from Weirton, West Virginia. There's about 650 people in that site as well. So we're targeting around 200 employees at this Ravenswood site, looking to attract other aerospace businesses to that site with your support. And I hope to talk a little bit more about that today. I have 2 children at West Virginia University today, and one still in high school in Hancock County. And I think, again, about the opportunity here in West Virginia to expand this aerospace sector. And I talk a lot about the younger generation and having 2 children there in college. I get an opportunity to talk to a number of their peers. And it's interesting, those that are out of state, to listen to them talk about going back home to opportunities. But I like to talk to them about opportunities right here in our state. There's no reason that they can't graduate and stay right here. So, again, pleasure to be here today. Pleasure to talk to each and every one of you.
Hello, I'm Scott Jones. I'm the Senior Operations Manager at Aurora Flight Sciences, which is a wholly owned but not fully integrated subsidiary of Boeing. We were purchased a little over 5 years ago. It's done worlds for our business and helped us expand and grow. We primarily at the Bridgeport location do composite parts for autonomous aircraft and some other aircraft as well. But with pretty much DoD, we do a lot of R&D work in some of our other facilities. We're located all across the U.S. I'm also a graduate with a mechanical engineering degree of WVU. Came here in 5th grade from Maryland and haven't looked back. West Virginia is a great place. Some of the best people, I think, in the United States. We're very proud people. I think it's easy to get people here, especially in school and younger people, but it's tough to keep them here. Some of my peers have touched on the awareness. I grew up in Fort Ashby, West Virginia, which is not too far from where I currently work, and had no idea that aerospace was in West Virginia. I think we could do a much better job promoting that type of business in this state. There's a lot of opportunities. We go to the college career fairs and things like that, and the kids are so excited to know that Big Boeing and all of these other companies are right here in West Virginia, and they can stay and do what they love, and they don't have to go elsewhere. And Tracy kind of pinged on it earlier, but dream it, build it, ship it is our motto, and that's what we do. There's opportunities for everybody and everyone. We hired a lot of folks from the Milan facility, so and they're great. They're top performers at my site. West Virginia, I think as a whole, has a history of hardworking individuals. And I think we can do a lot better taking advantage of those folks in a good way, right? Give them the opportunities as we grow and expand. I'm a little over 200 individuals right now at our site. We're looking at adding 50 approximately this year, and hitting that 300 mark in the next 5 years. So opportunities are plenty, and I thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come and promote, because that's what we really need here. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Denise Lindsay. I work for a company called TMC Technologies. We're out of Marion County. We're probably 2 minutes away from the Katherine Johnson IB&B NASA facility. And also, we do a lot of work with the WVU, with the WVU Small Sat Center that was started this year. I'm coming from a different kind of perspective up here on the panel. I'm more in the technology side. Our main focus today with aerospace is going to be on the space initiative or astronautic piece. TMC, and I don't know if any of you know this or most of you know this, but West Virginia actually has a satellite in space today. Today marks the 5-year mark that this thing's been up there. It's a small satellite that TMC designed, built, launched with the NASA IB&B Center and WVU. And just to put it into perspective so you can be proud when you talk about it, most small satellites have an average of a 90-day lifespan. Ours is still floating. It's not floating, it's orbiting. But that's because of the technologies behind it. And we're a software/technology company, and that's what we do. We built this software with a small team inside the NASA IB&B Center that does modeling and simulation so that we could build these things at lower cost. And they're just now starting to get traction with the Small Sat Center. The goal for that was to build up this center so not only do we design and use technologies, but that we use research missions. And these people exist in our state. We have 2 very intelligent, crazy smart professors up there, Dr. Well, Dr. Mehta, he's doing research on space debris right now, which is a big problem in the national space arena. Actually, it's global. And then we have Dr. Hongwon Lee, who also is doing research in space debris and other things that we're bringing to the Small Sat Center. We have Dr. Rhodes and the manufacturing piece of it. Students are doing this as their capstone product. So aerospace is starting to take off, especially at WVU now that they have this degree, but I'm going to agree with the panelists that we need to spread this across West Virginia, try to duplicate this center, invest in these research and development centers at the college level, increase the STEM like Tracy said at the K through 12 so they're interested in it. But then we want to bring people home. I'm the vice president. I guess I should have started there, sorry. I'm the vice president of our Federal Civilian Division, which oversees space. I'm from West Virginia. I was born here. I went to WVU in computer science, got an executive degree from Cornell. I never had to leave because the technology park started up and I got to start there and work for NASA and stay there. And even though I worked for some companies outside of West Virginia, I was still remote and be able to work here. We have a pipeline that we're trying to build here, but we need it to be larger, we need it to be bigger, and we need to let our people know outside of West Virginia, you can come home because we're doing this here. You don't have to go over there and work on space. So that's what I'm going to talk about today and some of the challenges and innovations when it comes to the technologies of aerospace. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you, all the panelists. Bill, we're going to start with you. And for those of you who do not know, we are really blessed to have Bill Noe here to be in West Virginia, to be senior leader at Marshall, because Bill really has a global perspective, former president of NetJets. I mean, you have seen the aerospace industry literally globally. And so if we just start out at a 50,000-foot view, why is there such a demand for aerospace? I mean, what are you seeing out there, to educate folks? What are you seeing out there? Why the demand for aerospace today?
Oh, thanks, Sean. I think it's multifaceted, really. I think everybody's heard of the pilot shortage and aviation technician shortage and all the supporting function shortage in aviation. I think that started in the 80s when the airlines deregulated and it commoditized the industry and really it became different over time. And there was a pilot shortage that was predicted in the late 90s, early 2000s. And some things happened to push that down the road a little bit. About the time we started feeling it again, we had a financial crisis, 2008-9, that pushed it down the road a little bit more. And some other things have happened along the ways, but really right now we're really behind the 8 ball in aviation and all that entails. Most people think it's pilots, aviators, or technicians, but as you heard from the fine folks on this panel, it's far more deep than just that. Well, during all of that, we have had advances in technology that have gone, we used to have 4 pilots per airplane, then it went to 3, then it went to 2, now it's kind of 1 in a lot of airplanes, and now we're going to none. The advancements in technology have created a lot of energy in a space that is a void. It has a big void right now. And I've never seen an opportunity like this in any business across the landscape that I'm privy to be able to be in aviation and in the space right now to take advantage of this, because people aren't going to go back to boats, trains, and cars. They're going to keep flying. It's aviation at the end user result gives you time, and time is a very valuable commodity. And the more we can improve upon that, the better off we'll be on the whole. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to keep growing. And right now, the last statistic I read, depending on which publication you read on statistics, it's going to be 30 years plus digging out of this hole just to get back into a place where it's somewhat caught up. So the 50,000 view is opportunity. And what I'm excited about with our state is being able to promote and expose folks to that line of sight to opportunity. Because I think a lot of people don't even know the opportunity in aviation and all that it entails. It's so wide open and prime for the picking. And I think Denise said, this is the only industry right now that if you go through training and get your education, certifications, and qualifications, you are immediately employed with an immediate return on that investment. I don't know of another industry out there that even comes close to that. And we talk a lot about wanting to educate our folks from West Virginia. I take it even farther than that. I take it, this is generational. This is an opportunity to create, have an effect on a generation of, for our West Virginia and their families. This could go many, many generations deep and really help our good folks. And I think somebody said, I've never met more intelligence anywhere in the world. That's what come out of our state. It's one thing to educate people and bring them up and want them to stay here. I want that, plus I want this to be a place where people are pouring into from other states and creating their own families here because it's such a sought-after place to be. And this is not pie in the sky. We can create this in West Virginia. It is right there for us, prime for the taking.
Thank you very much, Bill. And Denise, I'm going to target you for a similar question, but really related to space. And I'm not sure how much experience we have in the audience in space, but one of the things that we constantly hear from our senior Department of Defense officials is that for the first time ever over the last couple of years, the United States space assets are now held at risk. And we have not had that happen in the past, and so it makes sense that the U.S. military is spending a lot of money on space. But Denise, you probably see the commercial side as well. And so from a space perspective, at 50,000 foot view, or higher, I guess, in your case, why space? Why the resurgence from the 60s when we were all excited about going to the moon, and all of a sudden we're starting to see a lot more excitement about space, a lot of companies getting into space. What are you seeing from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you. So from lower Earth orbit is where I'll speak from. There's two reasons really that I think it's in the forefront right now. There is for absolutely this new focused area. And it's both public and private. So public is definitely commercial. You know, I mean, this space tourism, I mean, it's a thing. It's gaining traction. We've all heard of Elon and his company and what he's got planned. And, you know, I could see that happening for sure. And then, of course, NASA, their space exploration is really starting to gain some more focus, too. You know, the James Webb Telescope that's way out in deep space, if you haven't been on their website, it shows pictures that are fascinating of solar systems and galaxies we didn't even know existed. Whereas, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have the visual into that. Now we're getting the visual image of this stuff, which makes it even more exciting. But honestly, from the defense, from where we should be concerned, and I think that you touched on when we talk about the defense and security, there's two reasons why we should be focused on space, and in particular West Virginia, because the foundation is laid, as I'll talk about too. But one is the connectivity and communications. These satellites that are out there that we're talking about, these are gathering data, and I think I looked, there was over like 3,000 in lower Earth orbit right now that are commissioned, and other ones are just floating around in debris, which is another problem. But these are detecting weather patterns, helping to fight fires with the air quality, but also Wi-Fi, everything. And if you guys paid attention, and this made national news, right before Russia attacked Ukraine, they cut out their Wi-Fi, and they did that by hacking into their satellite servers. So this is a thing, and we have to absolutely secure our spacecrafts and our space assets, because more and more and more, we're putting this stuff up in lower Earth orbit on satellites, not on Earth itself. It sounds crazy that we're saying that, but it's true. We have this capability and technologies and manufacturing in West Virginia, and this economy is insane. It's blowing up. I saw a projection yesterday. The space economy underneath aerospace, just space, not aviation, is projected by 2040 to be I think it was $141 billion industry, because And also, really, part of this is because they're also estimating that 95% of launch costs are going to go down. So that tells me we're going to have more spaceports because there's going to be more availability. All of a sudden, people are launching all the time. We need to stay ahead of that. We need to stay ahead of it through technologies and investments in our STEM and all these things that we're talking about. We're going to keep repeating to you, but it's a big deal. And we honestly, even TMC, like we are creating cyber ranges with our technologies that we're building here, and we have folks and missions and top tier things I can't talk about that's happening. So we need to be that company. We need to tell the people you can come and work here, stay here, and like he said, implant from other states here.
Okay, thank you very much, Denise. Scott, I'm gonna target this question to you as we really start digging a little bit into the aerospace industry. And really looking at how investments can integrate and support local business in the supply chain. What kind of challenges are you seeing in the supply chain that we can see businesses in West Virginia, entrepreneurs in West Virginia, perhaps even technologies coming out of the universities as we start new businesses? What kind of challenges are you seeing out there that we really need to overcome?
I would venture to say that 90% of the product we order comes from another state. So, we've transitioned out of metalworking. We're more into the composite side at this point, but when we did more metalworking, we did a lot of the work in-house, but if you had to chemical treat it, some type of specialized process, we currently have a product line that requires a specialized heat treat. There's nobody in the United States that wants to do it. There's opportunities here that are very valuable. And I don't know, other than mountains that we need to flatten to make flat ground in the state, that's our only challenge. There's plenty of people and there's plenty of land. So I think there's some real opportunities to be kind of a second tier supply chain. Maybe not necessarily like Steve with the titanium, but the next step of the process. That there's an opportunity there for people to come in and do those type of things as well. We ship a lot of parts, a lot of places, but that type of thing, if it was in-house, it would bring more money closer to us. It would allow us to be more profitable and obviously cut down on delays and all those type of things. So I think there's some big opportunities there.
And Steve, the same question from your perspective. What are you seeing as some of the challenges in the supply chain, especially as you get this new plant up and running?
Yeah. So when we think about the global footprint of aerospace, we've touched on it in different points already. There's some geopolitical pressures that have put risk in the supply chain, particularly those supply chains that are more global. And as I work very closely with Boeing and Airbus, the two largest commercial airframers, they're looking to de-risk. So their challenges from a supply chain standpoint are making certain that the manufacturing facilities, the manufacturing technology, the assets themselves, the physical assets, as well as the human capital, I like to call it, are ready. They're ready here in the United States, or they're ready here in West Virginia. So I think some of our challenges are going to be capitalizing on those opportunities. I think we're all fully aligned, and partly why we're here. We see this as a perfect opportunity in the right time. But we've got to move. We've got to capitalize now. When you talk about challenges, I really tie it back to the growth drivers, and that's really around the revenue passenger miles flown, which are a statistic that's readily available out there. We're already beyond where we were pre-pandemic in terms of commercial aircraft travel, both domestically and internationally. So the challenges in the supply chain are ramping fast enough. There's a few people in the audience that are helping us get our facility in Ravenswood ramped up. When I look at some of the challenges we've had, it's about speed. It's about getting the infrastructure in there to support a facility of that size and be ready to go. And it's not really my deadline, it's our customer's deadline. It's Boeing, it's Airbus, it's really all of us that fly on commercial airplanes.
Yeah, being able to operate at the speed of relevance, as we say, right?
Yes, correct.
Denise, you were talking about some challenges that really move into opportunities from your perspective in the industry. Could you Talk a little bit about those.
Okay, sure. So let's tap into the cybersecurity because that was kind of a big one. As I mentioned, we have to secure our space assets. We have to secure our servers that are here on Earth as well, too, right? One of the things that TMC does and WVU, and actually what I think is really great to mention here is Marshall just getting this new cyber lab. Between the Small Sat Center up at WVU and TMC and then ASAMB, and then incorporating the cyber lab as they work together, we can become this innovative hub here, if you will, to test space assets from a cyber attacks. We can build out this cyber range. We can take this facility, build it into something amazing so that they come here to use it. This does not exist today. In fact, the technology that we have doesn't exist anywhere in the nation. We've been looking. And every white paper we write, we can't find it yet. So we have these people coming to look for it. West Virginia has a great opportunity for economic growth in the technology field to build out this IR&D with a cyber focus for small sat and spacecraft software. And if you guys would like to hear more about that or how we could do that, it's off the panel, but yeah, I think it's a great area for an investment here, specifically in West Virginia.
Well, and we also have new cybersecurity programs that started at State and at Marshall.
Yep.
And many of our folks that are in the CTC programs will be able to transition to those universities and get into that area. Now, Tracy, from your perspective on the industry side, I mean, you've seen industry come in. You've seen this aerospace kind of boom in your area. But thinking about that and how it relates to the whole state, what are your thoughts on some of the challenges and growth opportunities that we're seeing in aerospace from where you sit?
I would say challenges, which we know are hitting every industry, but aviation's so niche that, workforce, and again saying that when the state of West Virginia had that as a target industry sector, but we hadn't really focused on training centers. I think the fact that we now have training centers from the Northern Panhandle to southwestern West Virginia, new investments being made in southeastern West Virginia, we can now look at the entire state of West Virginia and say that A, we're training people to support the industry that's already here, but as we're looking at expanding the definition of aviation, and I like the way you said it, from 4 pilots to 2 pilots to now we're doing things that need no pilots, we can't just think about all the grown-ups in the room that are looking for jobs. We have got to really set the stage for the next advancements in aviation to make sure that our kids know these opportunities are there. So I would say besides the flatland issue, which, the good thing about having, whether it's a general aviation airport, a commercial airport, runways do tend to have some flat land around them, but we really want to look at all 55 counties. So the opportunity to make parts can happen anywhere, and really just being prime to work with the existing industries, because I think the thing that's kept us the busiest in north central West Virginia is all of the industry that's been there is so happy in West Virginia that they continue to invest and reinvest and reinvest. And so as we have gotten thankful support from the legislature and the governor's office to create more flat ground, it has just been making sure that we have enough room to support, for example, the 50,000 square foot expansion. It's not a separate building, it's a 50,000 square foot expansion that Aurora is doing. They currently occupy 6 buildings at our airport. That's a big deal. And I remember many years ago thinking, gosh, if we just had Boeing in West Virginia. We have Boeing in West Virginia in 6 buildings now. So just making sure that we are all working together so that supply chain issues, all of the needs that the aviation industry has, that we are setting the stage so that all of us in the room that want to bring in new industry, while folks like me are busy taking care of the industry that's already here, there is more than enough work for every single one of us to have a piece of this where we live.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And We've had no pilots mentioned a couple of times here, and so we're going to shift to a topic that includes no pilots, and that's advanced air mobility. And so when I say advanced air mobility, what I'm talking about is the delivery of people, goods, and services with drones and eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which at the moment are in fact manned. And so advanced air mobility is not just the unmanned or uncrewed systems. There's also many opportunities for manned systems as well. And Lux, this question is going to come to you. Lux has spent many of his last years driving this industry from the Assure FAA Center of Excellence down in Mississippi, at Mississippi State. And so from your perspective, Lux, this is almost that 50,000-foot view. Why are we seeing the demand, and why are we seeing all this investment, some $13 billion last year going into advanced air mobility in the United States, expected to grow to 30-some billion over the next 5 years? Why are we seeing such a demand for advanced air mobility?
Thanks, Sean. And if I could, I'd like to, along with that question, answer what I've heard from my fellow panelists. Workforce need to be bigger. Opportunity, there's voids, and there's void is an opportunity. With a little vignette of the state of Mississippi and Mississippi State University. So where you are today and trying to figure out exactly how you want to go forward, where to invest, and at what levels. Even right before I came along to Mississippi State University, two individuals, Dr. David Shaw and Major General retired Jim Poss, came together looking at what is our opportunity going forward? What do we need to do? And they saw this area, they saw what was happening in the military and the boom with unmanned aircraft systems, and they said, we need to do something there. And they worked with Congress to help fix the problems with the regulator, the FAA, to allow these kind of things, and that was the creation of a Center of Excellence, which Mississippi State took the lead on. They found partners from the whole of the United States, other universities, to go after this and win this capability to be the Center of Excellence. Well, the state, Mississippi State Assure, won that contract to do that for 10 years. And once they won it, it was like the dog catching the car. It was only authorized initially at $500,000 a year. It's now grown to, we're appropriated at 14, and with cost share and other things, we're at about $30 million a year in research. But it was, okay, now what? And that network, though, that we grew at Assure over this past 9 years with our industry partners, with our the work that we do that is now spread to NASA, FEMA, various other agencies, has created such goodwill that increasingly opportunities almost fell upon us. If you were to look at Assure in the first 2 or 3 years as an accountant, and I had those people questioning why Assure existed, because money would come into Assure and then we'd share it across our university base to go do research. But the true answer was we're doing fantastic research. That intercollegiate, cross-domain kind of research really led us to have not only great research, but great allies in Congress and other places, and with our industry ties into industry that existed nowhere else. And through this network, all these other opportunities or voids were seen and then sought after as an opportunity to go do. So since Assure came along, that goodwill has expanded into other things. Our execution arm at Mississippi State University is a Rapid Flight Test Center. It was 3-5 people, not doing very well, in debt. Now, it wasn't completely Assure. They changed leadership. They brought great people in. And now it's functioning across the board, not just unmanned systems and autonomy, but they're probably in the 70s of employees and engineers and workforce that can stay in place in the state of Mississippi. Advanced Composite Institute. new ways of using composites and manufacturing techniques in aviation that we don't necessarily want to put on manned aviation up front, but we can put it in these unmanned systems and test it out over the next decade to move that forward and then move into manned systems. The whole sensor suite and all the data that comes in created opportunities for our high-power computing center and our data analysis center and how to manage big data. So what I'm trying to do here is paint a picture of just how this snowball just keeps growing. And you decide which areas that there's strengths and capabilities, but it excites our youth, it excites the workforce, and we look at things like manufacturing and all those kind of areas as economic developers that you want to expand. These are the kind of opportunities that exist going forward. Now to your specific discussion on advanced air mobility, the idea here is to use these autonomous systems, not autonomous manned systems, to provide better access, primarily. In those areas like this state where you have very remote areas, think Appalachia, where you can get pharmaceuticals or blood deliveries or even organ donations and moved around rather rapidly. These systems provide that equity, the opportunities to go and do these things much more efficiently and cheaply as we overcome all the challenges associated around that, not just the safety of that flight, but actually getting the regulator like the FAA on board to do it, to grow industries, to move into these niche areas, to develop those kind of capabilities. Electric eVTOL, as was mentioned. Now we need charging stations. How do we build out that infrastructure? What does that look like? What are the efficient ways and new battery technologies? What is it that West Virginia wants to do? And if I can, Sean, discuss Assured Safe. The Assured Safe program to train our first responders, we've been in discussions with Marshall to be one of our partners in building out a training program, be one of our trainers, help us develop the curriculum, and at very minimum risk, because if we're doing this for your first responders on how to use these things more efficiently, beneficially, safely, still providing the proper privacy for your folks, it's all a win. There's really no downside to kind of moving these things forward. So the opportunities are ripe, and it started, I think, at Mississippi State with just a small $3 million investment in taking the risk to go after and develop and win the Center of Excellence. And it took a little bit of courage over a couple of years as we were trying to figure that all out with strong leadership across our university, across our connections in Congress, to help drive and keep these things on the forefront, to nurture them through those early days, and now that it's really paying off 9 years down the road. Thanks.
Thank you, Lux. And I want to keep going with this theme. And Bill, I'm going to shift over to you. But we have a program going now that is helping Marshall expand their flight school, and this is part of what I'd like you to talk about, Bill, into the uncrewed space. But you also have some other exciting things going on there. And what I think is really important is these activities are going to be spread across the state. And even some of the curriculum that is being built for K through 12, which is actually being led down in Mingo County. Alicia Johnson is doing a great job of being innovative down there, and those curricula will spread throughout the state at the secondary educational level as well as the CTC. But in talking about advanced air mobility, and what Lux was talking about, Bill, could you talk a little bit about how you see that future happening and how important this industry is going to be and how in the role it can play here in West Virginia?
Sure, thanks. Marshall Aviation, when we conceptualized it, believe it or not, went back to 2014, and it is where it is today in an explosive situation. The 5-year plan that we put together had fixed wing, then bringing in rotor wing, and then bringing in unmanned aircraft, and a lot of work with Colonel Lux, call sign Lux. to do this. The really interesting thing and the research that we can do in partnerships with this technology is to be able to really use the terrain to our advantage and fly the valleys and fly the different routes for all kinds of first responsive type things, as well as medical, and even luxury of delivery type as well. Marshall Aviation, of course, is Marshall, but that's the least of our concerns. This aviation space right now, it's not even a big pond, it's an ocean, and there's room for so many fish to swim in it, it's ridiculous. So Marshall, in a strategic way, has employed momentum to just help grow the state and expose people to aviation. Where most people know we have a place in Charleston, we have a place in Huntington, we're helping people all over the states, some academic and university organizations, some airport organizations. It's Marshall, but Marshall is in a unique position to be able to help in a multitude of ways with anything anybody wants to do, whether it's fixed wing or unmanned aircraft or maintenance technology. We can do it for somebody and just start it and do it. We can do part of it for various folks, or we can just advise and give you all of our information that we have on what it would take to do your own. I won't say it's not competitive, but it's really not competitive. This is growing the state of West Virginia, no matter whether you have an airport, whether you have a district, whether you have a big city, or it doesn't matter. There is so much room right now for fixed wing, rotor wing, unmanned aircraft, but also and drone stuff. Marshall already has, we're meeting right after this to further our relationship and partnership. We already have those type aircraft on scene, but it even goes farther than that. It goes into air traffic control training, goes into dispatch training, goes into flight attendant training, it goes into the airlines and creating this area of space that will interest people, inspire people, and really create a delightful outlook on their futures that we can really provide. So from the unmanned aircraft, the thing that excites me, Sean, about this is we have a lot of technology, but we've got a lot of people in this state that it would directly benefit. I mean, we can get there with this technology. We can take pain points and smooth those out. And we're going to be not only training it and researching it and figuring it out to help them, but it's going to be being done right here. And it's just one of the other strong pillars of opportunity we can have.
Thank you, Bill. I want to key on that, and Lux, I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to move on to another topic. But when we look at America, we see that 97%, geographically, 97% of America is rural, is considered rural by the Census Bureau. Only 20% of Americans live in rural America, though. So 1 out of every 5 Americans live in rural America. But when we look at West Virginia, what we see is 93% of West Virginians live in rural West Virginia. And the research that has gone on out there, primarily as we look at advanced air mobility and how it can support a population, has really focused in urban areas. And we have really been pushing that West Virginia can be the leader out there in looking at how these systems can be used in rural America. We can be piloting these activities in West Virginia, and what we figure out in West Virginia, oh, by the way, will work in Kentucky, in Tennessee, in Pennsylvania, and so on and so forth. Lux, you've been engaged in this industry for a number of years. How do you see these systems supporting rural America, rural West Virginia?
Well, Sean, the first thing I like what you said is West Virginia can take a lead in this. Listening to Bill talk about Maybe we need to develop new ways of navigating down the valleys and working that out. He lives West Virginia, he knows it. As I work this problem across the whole of the nation and the FAA, we're not necessarily seeing the solutions the same way West Virginia might bring us solutions as we work some of these issues and how to best do our first responder training and all that kind of stuff. So just a different perspective where most of that high percentage, over 90% of your population is rural, you need to provide them infrastructure and support. That's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. How are you tackling that challenge? What are the restrictions? What can we all work together on to go solve are the great ways to go forward. The unmanned technologies are supposedly the best things for, you heard the 3Ds, dangerous, dirty, or I'm losing the third right now, but dull, long-term, slow, nothing happening, those kind of missions. In a rural world where you're sending out a drone over a long drive, what would be a long drive up into Appalachia, a drone can fly that thing. It gets it either there autonomously or not, and it reaches out to those families that are in need and that are rural, that within your state you have a responsibility to take care of. So there's just, in that rural environment actually is probably the stronger environment, even though you hear a lot about urban air mobility, which is the advanced air mobility in city environments, because they got all the money, right? And it's splashy, it's exciting. That New York Stock Exchange broker who has the disposable income to not, leave his office, walk upstairs, jump on an eVTOL, go over to Kennedy or LaGuardia and get out of town. That's where all the money is. That's helping the high few. But really the greatest generation and where this can help the most is in remote communities to provide levels of equity of service across the whole population.
So none of this happens without people. And this is one of the most important aspects as we think about education and workforce development. And often we'll think about education and aerospace in terms of engineers and computer scientists and data analytics and all the STEM curricula. But Tracy, you talked about MRO, and you talked about the technicians, and we have manufacturing needs and things of that sort. What are you seeing from a workforce development standpoint, and where can we improve? What do we need to do to make sure that every West Virginian, no matter where they're from, can believe that they too can be part of this exciting industry, whether it's space or advanced air mobility or aviation? What are you seeing out there, and what can we do?
I think this is one of the opportunities, as Bill Noe said, I think everyone up here has said, it's not just about adding jobs, it is about growing the West Virginia population and bringing people home. And if you all can't tell how much I love this, I have on my aviation earrings, my aviation necklace, I have on aviation socks. I did have an aviation rockstar t-shirt that I did not wear today, but I feel like it's so important that even walking in here when I parked my car, there were 2 moms and 2 daughters, and I said, oh, was there something kid going on? And they said there was a coding symposium going over in the West Wing. And I said, I work with the aerospace industry. Where did you all come from? And they said, Morgantown. And I said, we have this really cool thing called Girls in Aviation Day that we actually had 2 of this year, one at Yeager Airport and one at my airport. And I can tell you that for 4 hours, we had dads and daughters, grandpas and daughters, never-ending stop of the people that just want to show their children that this industry sector is there. So I think one of the things that all of us can do is to make sure that you are in touch with your superintendents, your career and tech ed people, that you are aware not just of specific aerospace curriculum that are offered in almost half of the schools in West Virginia, but our Department of Education is so thinking out of the box, and I'm on the phone with them all the time, that they can tell you programs happening in schools that relate to aerospace. So as we're looking at the existing airports that are here that are so important, that are doing work that's already happening, or you're looking at the magic that Scott and Sean and Mary are doing, and I think one of the neat things you all are doing is you're really a catalyst. You're taking where we've been in West Virginia, and you're bringing all of us together, and you're adding value to the existing aerospace industry that we've had, and you're saying, folks, there's ways to redefine it. Transportation used to be horse and buggy, and then it kept expanding. We're in the flow of a new definition of aviation, and I think it's up to all of us to put your aerospace hat on. If you miss people that you want to come home, if you have children in your neighborhood, in your household that you want to keep in West Virginia, I think the definition of aviation, aerospace, space is infinite. So whether you want to do the technology aspect, the manufacturing aspect, the design it, the fly it, the fix it, you never have to leave this state. And that's really doggone important. And I think it's just continuing to invest. And it was so neat for me to meet Lux, because the very first thing he said to me was how much this transformed the Mississippi economy. And I think one of the things that we all understand is if you're going to make an investment, you want to see the return on that investment immediately. And sometimes you've got to let the universities and the FAA know that if we're going to say we've got to have investments in our airports, investments in our education system, investments in a way, and I also like the way you said, advanced air mobility brings Appalachia to a more equitable place. You just don't have to have a big expansive flat land to build a runway. You can now think of eVTOL and advanced air mobility anywhere in West Virginia. And so for those of you that don't think advanced air mobility is here yet, it's coming, and I think West Virginia should be on the forefront of everything that's going to happen with this industry sector. And there's no doubt in my mind that with the partners in education that we have, that's K-12 and higher ed, we can be the brain power behind anything we want to be in aviation.
Thank you very much. Did I die? I died. Did everybody hear me? Thank you, Tracy. Denise, I'm going to come down to you. I want to stay on this workforce development. You come from really a technology development perspective, and what are you seeing out there? What can we do? We do know that education leaders say all the time that our engineers, our scientists often make these decisions early in their life, much earlier than we expect in elementary school and middle school. What can we do in West Virginia to support a company like TMC and other technology developers to make sure that we have that workforce that we need in order to continue growing the economy here in aerospace?
Yeah, great. So not to reiterate, but it was great what Tracy just said. I hope you heard it. So I'll reiterate it. The K through 12 is super important from a space perspective as well. Even, they grow up, they read the books, they see the space, they learn their planets. But to actually be engaged in a curriculum or an activity that involves space, it's a game changer. We have so many interns at TMC and NASA IVMV that did something that was in 6th grade or something like that when the NASA IVMV STEM outreach. But I don't know for sure, but I know that our region up here in Mon County, Marion County, it's very active, but I don't know where it is in the rest of the state. So I think expanding and investing in that and maybe figuring out a way how to do aerospace as a whole but include the space would be a great thing to do. Because when kids hear engineering, or you talk to your kids, and my kids alone too, if you say engineering, they immediately go to mechanical or chemical engineering. They don't really necessarily think about aerospace or technical in that perspective. And if we're really thinking about it, I think there's only one place in the nation, maybe two now, that have space camps. That we've talked about this in the region with Pennsylvania and Ohio through the Keystone Collaborative. This would be a great investment if you really want to get the kids involved in space in our region. Start up a space camp. That could be in anybody's district. I think it would be a great idea.
think maybe we need to hit all those Boy Scouts that come into town every other year. Steve, from your perspective, workforce development probably looks a little bit different. Could you talk a little bit about the kind of development that a company such as yours requires and what your perspective is on that here in West Virginia?
Yep, sure, Sean. So, interestingly enough, as I'm sitting here with our fellow panelists, there's such a connection through what we're all speaking about. The equipment that we're designing and installing at this Ravenswood facility is very advanced. So I think to almost to the person in the room, we know that we have a long lineage of dedicated, hardworking individuals here in the state of West Virginia. Being able to take the technology and then put that technology to work in the form of a titanium melting furnace, by example, requires a different skill level than it would have required, say, 20 or 30 years ago. And so some of the challenges we see are looking at that advanced manufacturing curriculum and understanding from an electrical and a mechanical and a hydraulic viewpoint, how do you bring all that together and put the talent to work on that type of equipment right here in the state. And that's where I think it's important to work with the universities in the state, the colleges in the state, the vocational schools, and I think make sure that the curriculum needs are understood and that the amount of technology that's going to be in place in these manufacturing facilities that will not only what we're building, but what will come. There'll be a trickle-down effect here. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face. And I know I keep hitting this theme, but it's the speed of relevance, to use your term, Sean. It's now, and it is an investment. It's an investment in our future. It's an investment in the next generation's future as well. To put that educational opportunity out there, to put that curriculum out there, and I just think it'll really, really help solidify other companies' decision to build here and to build manufacturing, as well as all the other important aspects we're talking about here today.
And Scott, what's your perspective on workforce development, things that we can do in West Virginia to improve opportunities for you to find the type of talent, the type of skills that you're seeing that are needed in the future?
Yeah, I think a lot of the points we've already talked about are really key. I would say that I probably hire more technicians and other personnel for the factory that came for Take Your Kid to Work Day than I do career fairs. I think it's key to get the ideas into their brains when they're little so they really know what they want to do, because as someone else mentioned earlier, you know what you want to do well, some of us know what we want to do when we go to college, but you've kind of got a path in a set way. I work with a local technical school. There are high school kids that have zero interest in college, but they want to do cool stuff. They want to go work on airplanes. They want to do this. They want to do that. The funding at the end of that program to pay for that project is pocket change. So you get these kids ramped up. They're raring to go. They want to do awesome stuff. And then there's this deflation at the end. And I think we need to be really diligent about the whole path, the whole plan. Inspiring and showing and letting them know what they can do and keeping that momentum going. We do tours at the site for the Take Your Kids to Work Day and other local groups and schools, and we build the Northrop Grumman Global Hawk. Well, every single Global Hawk has come through our facility, and they were on the Iron Man movie. You guys probably don't really care about that, but I think it's really cool. And I know every single one of those kids thinks that's the coolest thing ever. So, letting them know that kind of stuff is out there and kind of give them that, dangling that carrot out there for something really, really interesting and advancing, the world. I know we're talking about the eVTOLs. We built eVTOLs. We flew them in Manassas. I think there's some opportunities in West Virginia to do those type of things too, the testing of those things, and you show that to kids. I mean, that's the future, that's space, right? So I think, again, just keeping that momentum and making sure that these small schools that are doing these awesome things have the funding they need. We've got an awesome rocket program. Rafe Snell, is it Snell? Yeah, he's at Bridgeport High School. He works with the girls in aerospace as well. It's awesome. They've got a great program. Funding for those type of things is essential, especially in this state. So.
Yeah, and many of those programs are available throughout the state. each one of the counties have to make decisions. Sometimes those are tough decisions because the manpower just isn't there to teach those courses or to have those clubs and things of that sort. And so tough decisions are made there, and hopefully we will see those programs, those robotics programs and drone programs spread throughout the state. Where I would like to go to for the last 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you the questions, you could be thinking about it here for a second, is there's been a lot of excitement, but how do we make this happen? Each one of you, and when I say this happen, how do we make the workforce development happen? How do we make advanced air mobility happen? How do we make sure that West Virginia is on the leading edge of space? How do we make sure that West Virginia is on the leading edge of making sure that every young person knows that they too can be part of this exciting economy? And so what I'd like to do is just from each of your different perspectives and where you come from and kind of where you represent, I'd like you to think and talk for a minute or so, or a couple minutes, about how do we make this happen in West Virginia? The excitement's clear, but at some point the rubber has to meet the road, and how do we go about doing this from your perspective? And I'll ask if anybody would like to go first, if you've had a chance to think about this. Lux, you seem to be nodding over there with the big thumbs up. And so go ahead, Lux.
I think one of the key things, and it's the same thing I'm going to talk to Bill later on today, at his level, but also probably at the governmental level, is you need a dynamic advocate. You need somebody with energy that you trust, that can find funding that at the governmental level that really has a passion for this. From everything you heard today, from kids getting excited in school about STEM, all the way up to the CubeSat that's being launched out into space and all that's involved in the manufacturing that's going on. When I talk to Bill, it's going to be kind of the same discussion. Out of the university, we need that strong advocacy. That is what has grown ashore, and it was probably multiple places, but primarily led by Mississippi State, to actually drive this program with passionate forward. Another vignette on that, just as an example, a couple years ago, Senator Leahy out of Vermont threw money at Ashore thinking the University of Vermont was part of Ashore. And that was a challenge because my universities have to agree who's part of Ashore, and we had never talked to Vermont. But Vermont positioned itself extremely well with the person that they put at the lead out of that university that was going to represent all the capabilities of that university. That person took such charge, was such a good steward and teammate amongst the other universities, that not only was Vermont eventually accepted into Ashore, they were driven to join at the highest level of our things and given leadership roles across all of it within just a couple of years. It's that passion, that drive, and then ultimately the support of leadership, the governor's office, the legislature with this individual at the government, and then when we're working at our university level, that can really make the difference. Leadership matters, and personalities matter, as you all know. That will help really drive this thing through.
Lux, I think we just had our meeting. Done. Save ourselves some time.
All right, who's next? Who would like to go next? Do I need to start calling names? Bill, go ahead.
I think I'd just leave you with a little bit of a cliche. I think the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. The aviation industry for the state and for all the districts and for the citizens and their future families needs funding. And we need it to be applied to aviation. It's as close to a no-miss, low-risk opportunity as you can ever come across in our lifetimes. Maybe the tech world was about as close as I could see this, and I think aviation is going to far exceed that. But it's up to, I think it's our responsibility to help not only the current citizens of West Virginia, but their future families and their families to come, to create a platform. I mean, West Virginia has such deep roots in aviation. I mean, my goodness, we've got the most famous aviation person that ever walked the planet Earth right from here, and the list goes on and on and on with the historical significance we played in aviation. But right now, we don't want to miss an opportunity. So anything you could do to help perpetuate that and force multiply the speed at which we can grow this is, I think it's our responsibility to take advantage of personally.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's right. I just build on what Bill was saying, build and they will come, since we're building a manufacturing site right now. I'll take the opportunity to say that is absolutely true. I would say, having companies want to co-locate here in West Virginia that are in the aerospace business is absolutely possible. Infrastructure development is key. How do you get the utilities into? How do you get wastewater out of? How do you get the power? How do you get the roadways? I've got north of 100 contractors that will be rolling into Ravenswood in the next several months. And those contractors are coming through one of our main primary engineering companies we're utilizing. One of the first questions is, where do you stay? Where do we put our workers up? Where's the best place to house? So when I think about how, question, the how is really enable. We have to enable. So, that's what I'd ask you to think about. How do you enable businesses to come here and do business quickly? The manufacturing companies themselves are going to fund the projects for the most part with some help, as again, thank you, from the economic development. We initially targeted $500 million. We're north of $650 million now. Is what we'll be spending there when we're done. So the enabling portion, make sure the infrastructure's there, develop now, make sure that everybody understands. We touched on how 93% are rural. So with that brings some challenges with regards to getting utilities in and out of these sites that undoubtedly will be targeted for further manufacturing development.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah, so I mentioned this at the beginning. I think a key initiative is awareness. I was talking backstage, and you turn YouTube on, you look up West Virginia, you see the wild, wonderful whites, or you just see all of these negative images of West Virginia, and you don't ever really get to hear about the positivity that exists in this state. And you think about Everett, Washington, and you hear, Boeing, or Hartford, Connecticut, and you think Sikorsky. No one ever says Bridgeport, West Virginia. Oh, that's where, all of these aerospace communities are. There's a really great initiative in this state to come here and raise revenue through our natural resources, hiking and skiing, and all those type of things. But what if there was an initiative where we had videos and people talking about the aerospace community in West Virginia, and we became the next, hotspot for that type of technology, and bring the all-stars here and fund these companies and really make an impact on the community. And, someday you would hear West Virginia, oh, that's where they make this, or the MQ-25, which is what we make, is the world's first autonomous refueler. I mean, that is an amazing thing. But nobody knows where that's made. It's made in Mississippi too, so I don't want to take any credit from them. But I think the awareness is key. You don't go do something, and even in your hometown, if you don't know about it, right? It's a simple thing. It doesn't have to involve too much, but it may be a little funding to get it out there. But to change kind of the dynamic and what people think of this state, I think is critical. Because even if we have infrastructure, I know plenty of people who don't want to come here because of the bad taste that we have, unrightfully gained over the years. So.
Okay, Denise.
Yeah, wow. So really, my statement was going to be a combination of Lex and Steve. From my perspective, you don't think of West Virginia as being someone or a state that is involved in space, right? It's just we don't launch here, we don't have pads, we don't have anything like that. But the technology is here. So that advocacy and that awareness and that you guys being educated on what we are doing is huge. We got to keep the NASA IB&B facility funded. We got to keep the IR&D and the research development centers funded and spread them across the state. But then we have to let everybody know those exist and promote this state as an aerospace state. That's what we need to do.
Tracy.
So what all of these folks have said, the fact that we have the West Virginia Promise Scholarship for free university. We have the West Virginia Invest. So as you're looking at anything space related, when we're all flying, you want to know that who's ever flying that plane, whoever worked on that plane, had very niche certifications. So it isn't just getting a community college degree or a university degree. You've got that FAA certification on top of it. Our legislature has put tools in place that West Virginia kids can get that for free. That is a big doggone deal. We are now investing in growing more of these training facilities. So one of the things that I think is very important for all of us to do is make sure that anything aviation and aerospace that's fun, that's happening in your neighborhood, you have got to get a kid interested in it. And I'm going to say that some of those clubs, since we have so many really cool, educated, retired folks in West Virginia, I think if you're not going to a school and volunteering your time and helping with a robotics or a drone or something cool in aviation, you've got to get involved. There's a speaker series at the Department of Education, and I can tell you right now, Scott Rotruck is going to wish that everybody that's doing anything cool in aviation would sign up. So you can either go in person or you can go virtually to talk to kids about whatever all of us are doing. And if we're all not signed up for that speaker series, I challenge all of us to do that so that we can inspire whatever's next in West Virginia. The Martinsburg Airport had a huge fly-in, or a huge air show this summer. I think since we are such a small state, anytime there's something fun going on in aviation, we've got to tell each other, we've got to get the kids involved, and we've got to share with them all of the opportunities and not define what they want to do. I think aviation is so infinite that we can help them become whatever they want to be in West Virginia, and I can almost promise you we can provide the training and keep them here. It's the best story, and I think we have all of the players, the past, the history. We've just got to tell it. I like the thought of doing some videos and some, just anything to just showcase this aviation passion that we have.
And I'll just add to that partnership. I think partnership across academia, industry, nonprofits, the government is just vitally important here in West Virginia. And one of the great things about West Virginia is we've been working for the last couple of years in helping the Air Force find small businesses and entrepreneurs and researchers that are developing technology to support their challenges. It is incredible what we have going on in West Virginia. And even after 2 years of looking across the state, it seems like every week we come across another company, another technology, and we're like, oh my gosh, we had no idea that this is happening in the state. And so this partnership, I think, is vitally important to add on to what everybody else said. And Lux, you guys have done great work down in Mississippi, but look out, buddy, because West Virginia's coming after you, okay? And I got to tell you, we've got a competitive group of West Virginians here, and we want to get to the top, the good top of that list, okay?
Bring it on.
So let me just say, what I heard here today is there is a lot of opportunity in this industry across a whole variety of areas of the industry, from aviation, both commercial and military, to space, advanced air mobility, manufacturing, education, and so on and so forth. And there's real excitement out there, and we need to capitalize on this. And West Virginia can be a leader. We can be on the leading edge of this industry. We find our niche, we build our strategy, and we chase after it fast and furious. I'd like to thank all the panel members for being here, traveling into town. Lux coming up from Mississippi. Thank you so much. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Bob Leslie, who actually was the person that really put this together, and we really appreciate that. And TMC for providing lunch today. Thank you very much for that. We ask you to please reach out to us if you have any questions. If there's anything that we can do to answer questions, if you need to go a little deeper in a particular area, one of us here, or we will find somebody that could go deeper in an area that you might be interested in. Please do that. Bob Leslie has all of our information and would be glad to share that. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you again for the panel, and everybody have a great week. Thank you.